Welcome to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, my friend, colleague from the board of the Vegas Chamber and the LVGEA, Market Vice President for Republic Services, my friend Bryant Thornton. Welcome, Bryant.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and I know you're a busy man. Our calendars, we had to sync. You had to be there, and so thanks for making the trip. Let's start by, I have the fortune to know you. We see each other even outside of the state when we go to the DC fly-in. We spend time. But I love for our listeners and our viewers to learn a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, went to school, college, and perhaps your first job, and how you got here to Southern Nevada.
Okay. So I was born in Orlando, Florida. Went to high school, college in Orlando, Florida. Started at Columbia College, and then finished up at the University of Phoenix. So I grew up there, and had a great time. Orlando, Florida is, kind of similar to the economy we have here, tourism. And so my first job, I started as a dishwasher when I was like 14 years old, working at a restaurant called Bryant's Restaurant, washing dishes and bussing tables and things of that nature, and just to have a little cash flow in my pocket. Yeah. Growing up back, and I grew up on the west side of Orlando, and so our parents got us working at an early age.
Good. And then how did you get here to Southern Nevada?
So I was promoted into the role that I'm in as Market Vice President. Prior to this, I was in Atlanta, and I was the Director of Operation, and I was responsible for Florida, Puerto Rico, and South Alabama operations for Republic. So the company reached out to me and asked me if I want to, consider taking a role, an elevated role, being a vice president, and come out and run the company's largest market here in Southern Nevada. And me and my wife accepted, and here we are.
That's good. So I'm learning something. Republic Services is a company that has more than just Nevada business. It sounds very broad. How far does the business go?
Oh, so our headquarters is in Phoenix, but we're in 45 states. So we're a sustainability company. We provide residential, commercial services. We have landfills, recycle facilities, and transfer stations. And we also have an environmental service business where they focus on spill response, and then more of hazardous waste and things of that nature.
Okay, and so again, as you said, when you're in a company that large, there's promotional opportunities that sometimes mean you have to leave one market and go to another market. In this case, are you happy you came to Las Vegas?
Oh, we're happy. We love it out here. We live in Summerlin. It's a beautiful place. This is a great market, great people, and go Knights go, right? Yeah. So we got 2 championships. Yeah. And working on a third. We'll talk about that one. But no, it's a great place to live, great place to have fun, beautiful scenery, and just full of good people, great community.
Yeah. We're fortunate to have you here, Brian. I've enjoyed, working with you and getting to know you and spending, again, time together serving on the Vegas Chamber and the LVGEA. We work with some of the same, people over there. And through our research, we found out that you joined this industry in 1997. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what drew you to this industry?
Well, it's funny you asked. So I was working at retail at Curtis Mathis back in 1996, and so I was assistant store manager. Actually, I was store manager then. And so Curtis Mathis was a retail company where they sold TVs, furniture, and all those things that nature. It's kind of like a smaller version of Best Buy. Okay. And so I was working in that industry, and a good friend of mine, a high school friend of mine, a college buddy, he was working at Waste Management as a driver. And he came in and said, hey, he wanted to buy a TV, and we were talking. I said, hey, where are you working at now? We're both in college trying to figure out what that next step is early in our career. And he said, I'm working at Waste Management driver. And I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I drive a trash truck. He said, you ought to consider it. I'm like, are you out of your mind? And he's like, no, man, it's a good career. It's a rewarding career. And I said, no, thank you. So he came back 2 weeks later, pick up his TV. We were talking more, and he said, you ought to really consider it. And I said, no, man, I think I'm good. And So he pulled out his paycheck and showed it to me. And it was kind of like double what I was making. I said, how do you find this place?
Yeah.
And 26 years later, here I am, right?
Yeah.
So I started my career I had to go get a permit. I started my career as a driver.
Wow.
And then did that for 3 years and then promoted up to a supervisor and ops manager. So I spent the first 13 years of my career in this industry with waste management. And then I was recruited to come to work for Republic in 2009. In Atlanta as a division manager, and I got promoted to general manager and had several roles of increased responsibility since then.
So, Brian, I think you and I have talked about this a little bit, and we probably have to eventually, get down to the specifics. But you just told me that it was a lack of awareness until you saw that paycheck. You had no idea this could be what it is. And look at your life now, as you said, promoted up. So, how can we together? How can Workforce Connections assist Republic, right, with making more people aware? Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a pipeline, and so you can sustain the growth and of this community and the needs of waste management. So how can we partner with Jara, who's also on the LVGEA with us and on the Workforce Connections board, to make sure that at CCSD we don't have that lack of knowledge. So more kids, young people know, do I want to make that big paycheck? Let me go find out more about that.
That's great. I mean, and I appreciate that. So, from partnering with you and CCSD and CSN, and our team here locally, we like to go out and spend time, educating, potential high school or college grads, or on what they can do to come in and where some people want to come in and do the frontline labor work and be a driver or operator. Sorter, or those skills jobs, and you have other folks that are in college that want to come into a supervisory role, and we have a management trainee role that we typically hire folks at our corporate office in Phoenix. But we do promote within, and we ask our candidates and our potential employees that want to have a succession plan and want to move up is we just lay out the requirements for the job, and then we work with them on developing those skills they need. So they can be successful in that next level role. So we do have several of our current supervisors here that were drivers that promoted up to be supervisors, and then we have a couple operations manager here is the next level that promoted up from a supervisor to operations manager. So it depends on the appetite for the person. We have the vast majority of our drivers in this market, over 700 drivers, been in the company over 13 years. So we do have a pipeline of employees that like just coming in doing their job, and they want to come in and they want to contribute and be successful every day, being safe, provide great service to our customers, take care of their equipment, and be good ambassadors for for the organization. So CSN and CCSD, we certainly want to continue to work with them on, because not everybody's going to college.
Right.
Every kid we talk about it. You have a third, third's going to college, third's going to military, the other third's going out in the workforce, right? And it's good that people want to do that, because you and I talk about economic development and how great that is, but we got to have that workforce to be able to get there. So working with the team, to help continue to make sure we have successful commercial drivers. You have to have a commercial driver's license. A pipeline of folks that want to be diesel technicians, indoor heavy equipment operators, or technicians. Very good paying jobs. We pay our employees well. They have good pension and good benefits, and so in order for us to do that, we they got to come with a skill. But if they don't, then we kind of partner with the local workforce to help them develop those skills. And then also Republic, we have our own CDL school that the company house out of Dallas, and also we have a technician school there that we send employees from all around the country there and teach them and give them the skills they need to be diesel mechanics or either professional commercial drivers.
That's really good. We're going to sit down then and follow up on that conversation. I think about how we can be more intentional in helping you in that regard. When it comes to the issues front of mind for Republic Services, I think you share this with others, across many industries, but it's, today are the policies in the state and the region business friendly? right? And I know that's why the chamber advocates in Carson City. I know you've been there as well, making sure that we have business-friendly policies. Is it, again, access to and retention of talent is a huge issue. But what is there other things besides those that is keeping you awake at night or getting in the way of Republic? Anything more important than those two issues?
Certainly, having employees is the most important thing we do, right? And I think, we'll start with the policies. Thank the chamber and team for advocating on behalf of the businesses. So there's no really policies that's getting in our way. And if they are, then we kind of have a team that kind of work with us to work with our elected officials or whoever to have a conversation.
We send Paul Moroccan up there, right?
We send Paul. Paul take care of this for us, and he does a great job on that.
Does.
And then in terms of workforce, again, we don't have an issue with drivers in this market, but CDL drivers globally is a problem. And there's a big, there's only 4 million CDL drivers in the country. And so you got to have a professional skill set to operate those. I still hold a CDL. I still keep my CDL active and medical card. And so, but there's 70,000 plus driver shortage nationwide. In this market, we have the luxury of having great benefits and great pay, commensurate to the market and at a little bit better. So we don't have an issue with drivers, and there's a pipeline there, but there's shortages throughout the country. What keeps me up at night is sometimes worrying about diesel technicians, that skill there. So having, because as the workforce starts to retire off and age out, then we got to have a pipeline set up for success to be able to come in and be a diesel technician or an operator of a heavy equipment. And while the job pays well, it's working in a landfill, it's driving a garbage truck, and it's a great job with a very rewarding career, and our employees have the opportunity to kind of like myself promote up if they want, but we just got to get that next level generation ready to go move up and take on the role of working in the environmental service industry.
And Brian, it's interesting to hear the challenge you explained is shared again across our industry sector partnerships. I know that, again, I'm grateful Republic Services was represented when we launched our sector partnerships, and as we talk to employers, I brings in mind Keolis, who has the contract with MJ Maynard and RTC, for operating the buses. They have the same thing. They say we need to ensure that as the older mechanics are retiring, there's a pipeline. Empire Caterpillar, that used to be Cashman Caterpillar, same thing, the mines and operators for this equipment. So I think, again, it all boils down to they can six-figure jobs of diesel mechanics, I heard it, in these companies. And so why are we not being effective? Because you told us your story, you see the money, to pay the bills. And so how can we do better at making sure that more young people are exposed to that, aware of that, so they become, when they get to graduation, more of them are a part of this solution that we need to meet that labor market demand, right? So we'll work on that together.
Yes, I appreciate it, because we just got to continue to connect with CCSD and then touch those kids, even the folks that graduate college. I mean, we've had several folks that go to college and come out, and we have several employees with college degrees, either working as technicians or working as drivers. But it's again, it depends on the appetite for the person, what they want to do in their career. It's my job and our team's job is to explain kind of career path and explain to them what the total economic package is for them to work for a great company. Republic Services is a great company. It's a great industry. We work in a sustainability world where we want to create a more sustainable world for our communities and certainly here in Southern Nevada, and we just got to have the team in order to get that done.
So, Brian, I know that you work with, you probably have several strategies. One of them is working with our folks at the Employee and V Business Hubs, the one that's located at the Chamber, to connect you again with job seekers. But if somebody was listening again today and say, that Brian's starting to make some sense, how do I go find out about the jobs available at Republic Services? Is it the website?
Or you go to republicservices.com and click on the career page, and you can look for career opportunities across the country.
Perfect. We're going to put that here on the screen as well for our viewers, and then hopefully our listeners. If somebody goes there, make sure they tell Brian Jaime sent me. We're in the podcast. Are you like, you'll owe me one.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate it. We want to keep that talent in Southern Nevada.
Right. So, Brian, one of the things, again, I just mentioned it, in 2022, our region, the partners together, again, the Vegas Chamber, LVGEA, us, CCSD, CSN, UNLV, we all got together and say, we want to listen to industry. And so we convened these 7 industry sector partnerships, one for each one of our regional growth target sectors. And again, because we hear it all the time at the LVGEA, economic diversification has been a focus of this state now for almost a decade or more, but we're refining it. We hear Tina say all the time, we want to bring the right companies to our region that are going to complement the other companies that are here, that are going to help us manage our limited resources, all those things. And so what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far? How are we doing in that regard? You and I, again, are on the LVGEA. Perhaps we have more insight into it than our regular listeners, but what's your opinion on how we're doing on economic diversification as a region?
I think we're on the right track. And I think it started with Allegiant Stadium, right? And so we want to diversify our economy to make a more robust, stronger, long-term economic pipeline for us. And when you look at, bringing other industries here, whether it's transportation, logistics, or, if we're looking at tech companies that come here, we're the sporting capital, and it's going to be sporting mecca. I mean, we got 2 championship teams here.
Yes.
Hopefully we got the A's coming, and that helps diversify our economy. And a diversified economy makes a stronger economy, and a stronger economy is good for diversification for economic, but more importantly for long-term careers for employees to be able to go to work. Yep. So as we continue to build out our pipeline and look through which companies that we want to strategically bring here to the market, we want to make sure they're well-paying jobs, high-paying jobs that can continue to move our economy forward for the long term.
Yep. Brian, when I came here to Las Vegas in 1987, there was 375,000 people roughly, and the hottest game in town were called the Running Rebels, And you would go to the Thomas and Mack, 21,000 people, big arena, but you were cheering on for a college basketball team. Now, during those years was their glorious run. They ended up winning the national championship. All that was great. But back then, if you were to ask anybody, do you think one day you'll have a NHL franchise, Stanley Cup winning NHL franchise, WNBA championship winning team? You have a historic NFL franchise that, as you said, hopefully will change and more winning will happen there. A Major League Baseball team. Now you're talking about the A's. But I was really excited last Thursday when Tina was interviewing the guy from Oakview Group, that vision he painted. And I've heard LeBron say that he wants a team in Vegas. And so we might be going to NBA games one day also.
Oh, it's going to be great. I mean, you think about that. Think about the jobs that bring to our economy. I think I heard something where the A's may bring 5,500 jobs, and you think about the secondary ancillary things that happen with that from a business standpoint, small businesses. And I think a lot of these, when you look at these sporting venues it targets a lot, right? So we're bringing a big a major league team here, but it supports the small businesses because there's a lot of small businesses that need that support. And they need that economic burst to help them stay in business, right, to meet payroll and continue to grow and reinvest back into their business so they can continue to, kind of help the economy move. So when I look at the NBA team coming here, I'm thinking about, great, we get an NBA team. We can layer that in with our current infrastructure here. But it's all about jobs, economic development, growth. But a lot of that has to come with workforce, right? We can bring all these businesses here, but we got to have the workforce to be able to get it done. And you and I talk about that all the time on where's that workforce sit, and economic development's good, but workforce has got to match it. And how do we go find that workforce as people retire out and bring in new workforce? How do we get the younger generation in and bring them into these roles so that they can understand what they're doing and play their part in making sure that our economy continue to thrive.
Absolutely. And we had Janet Jones Blackhurst here for the podcast, and she shared a piece of data that when people look at Allegiant Stadium and they think about the 9, 10, or 11 games that the Raiders play there every year, but she shared a figure somewhere in the 80. I'm going to say it was 83 or something like that. other events that have happened in that, and the economic impact of those events. I've been to a few, the Garth Brooks concert, the soccer games in USA, Mexico soccer games, Real Madrid and Barcelona were here, and all the other ones. It's been really a game changer for us to have that stadium. As you said, there was a lot of, division about whether it's going to be good or bad for the town. But I think in the overall picture, it's been really good because it got us the Super Bowl. And she was sharing also that most likely, because we're very good at events, after the Super Bowl happens, and if everything goes according to plan, we're probably going to get it more times, right? Every 4 years or so, we'll probably get that event. So, I think for us, again, as LVGEA board members, that's always going to be our focus is as we grow, let's make sure we have the workforce to support the economic growth. Let's get back to you for a second. And the crew here, as we did the research to, for your podcast, it was shared with me that you serve as an auxiliary state trooper with the Florida Highway Patrol, and you have professional affiliations with various law enforcement associations. I didn't know this piece about you, so tell us a little bit more about this side of Bryant that I didn't know about.
So in 1993, I think I was 21, 22, somewhere up in there. And I've always had a passion for law enforcement, high school, and I said, I want to be a law enforcement officer. And I was working at, in retail, right, and going to college, trying to figure out which direction I want to go, and really want to get involved in law enforcement. And so, a state trooper down there in Florida is the role model, in my opinion, in law enforcement. We call it Florida finest, right? In terms of always, being high ethics and integrity and courtesy and professionalism. And so a buddy of mine was a trooper, and he said, hey, man, I told him, I said, I want to go apply to be a trooper. And so I went and applied. And, back then they were only starting troopers off at $24,000 a year, and I was making $37,000. I was like, man, I can't take that kind of pay cut, right? And he's like, well, just join the auxiliary program, and if you get to go through the academy, and once you get through the academy, if you decide you want to go full time, and then it's easier to transition from that standpoint. You go through all this, do all the same training, do all those things, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'll do that and see if I want to, get in law enforcement full time. So I started in 1994, went through the academy. Started in 93, went through academy, graduated, started working the road, and then ended up in this industry, right? And then the economics started to, farther stretch apart. And so I just stayed in as an auxiliary state trooper, and I love it. I enjoy working the road. I enjoy working at, a lot of details, being out there doing enforcement, really educating the public, really going back to the community I grew up in and other communities, educating people the importance on traffic safety and just overall safety from that standpoint. So I'm still active right now. I was actually home this past weekend. I worked the road on Friday. Wow. I go out and I enjoy it. So, that's my passion of giving back to the community. I've always wanted to give back, serve the state that I live in. Or grew up in, and then, but a big passion of mine was kind of being involved in law enforcement.
Now, they get the benefit of that, but is there a way that you could do that in Nevada, or do you have to only do it in Florida? So
in Nevada, there's no reserve programs with law enforcement, and I'm talking to several of them about starting a reserve program. The reason why I stay and keep it in Florida is because I had 29 years, and then I got probably another year, and I'll probably do a couple more years. But in the current role that I sit in, our company moves you around a little bit. So instead of me flipping from agency to agency, our command staff understands it. Know that I'm passionate about law enforcement support and still do my required hours. I have to go down there and do all my mandatory training and required training to stay, keep up my certification, and then certainly work the road to give back. So I just go back home and take care of it and see my family. All my family's back there, so it gives me an opportunity to go back and serve my state, see my kids, see my family, and then come back home to Nevada.
All right. Do you ever run into Jara at the airport? Because he also travels back to see the family to Orlando.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You haven't run into him?
No,
Okay.
I go back and forth probably about every 10 to 12 weeks, and spend time with the family and do my reserve duty and come back.
All right. I don't know. We got to, I think, do lunch with Jesus, because that way, if he's ever, speeding in Florida and you stop him, at least
Exactly. I'll be nice to him.
Right.
So because that's right, he was in Orange County. I
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah, and he's as you has family, and so he goes often. So wouldn't that be funny running into the airport or even on the road, as you say? That'd be like, what?
Hey, Doc, what you doing out here?
So, Brian, as we reach the end of the podcast, we definitely have to have you back. But at the end, we reserve some time for any final thoughts. I know we already made the pitch for republiccareers.com. Anybody wants to go learn more about the awesome benefits and opportunities in Republic services. But is there anything else on behalf of the Vegas Chamber, the LVGEA, or Republic Services, or anything that you'd like to maybe let our listeners know about?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, right, for the great work you do. You're involved in all the different, whether it's on the boards, getting out in the community, going out to the private, public sector, advocating on behalf of workforce. You're there, right? This organization here is a pillar for our community, and what you guys do in terms of trying to connect employees to employers and connect. How do we get them trained and developed? You can't put a value on that. So I want to thank you for what you do in this organization. And I want to say to the listeners, if you are thinking about a career or thinking about, hey, what do I want to do next? This is a great organization to come see. Workforce Connections. Republic Services is always hiring, right? We're always looking for talent. We want the best talent to come to work for us to help us continue to, work in our sustainability world and provide great environmental services. But Workforce Connection is a great place to come connect and meet with people and kind of figure out which direction you go. And you guys help with, kind of connecting them and thinking through, hey, what do you really want to do in the world as you grow up? Some people want to be leaders and lead companies. Others want to be contributors. So either way, we appreciate you and your team and this organization for what you do in our community.
Thank you, Brian. I think I always again enjoy working with you. We're gonna follow up on that CCSD strategy again on how to make sure that you're building a pipeline as easy as possible. And we're going to travel again together. I mean, the DC fly-in is, 2 months away now?
2 months away.
Paul Moroccan's going to shift from advocating for us in Carson City. Now he's going to prepare for us up in DC. So you have your tickets already, right?
Yes, sir. I already bought the tickets, hotel book, because the hotels go quick.
It goes fast.
Yeah, and you will be up there advocating on behalf of Workforce Connection, talking to the U.S. Department of Labor and advocating for dollars and funding. We will, but you're the face of the franchise when it comes to that, taking care of doing that to make sure that Nevada gets our fair share in terms of dollars, so that we can continue to put that into our economy and to make sure we get the resources we need to develop that workforce.
We will. We'll be there together. Thanks, Brian, for being here today in the podcast.
Thank you, Jaime. Appreciate you.
All right. So that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you in a future one. Until then, stay safe. Brian, thank you for staying over and doing our bonus segment called Against the Wall.
Thank you, sir.
Are you ready for the first section?
Yes, sir.
It's called Your Favorite. So tell me your favorite food.
Seafood.
Your favorite restaurant.
My wife was going to laugh when I say this, but Chipotle.
All right.
I eat there 3 times a week.
3 times a week. Favorite musical group or artist?
I would say, I got to think about that. What's a Brian McKnight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Top Gun.
Favorite book?
I got to think about that one for a second. Let me think about it. There's a couple of them. And I just got done reading this one book called The Advantage. And I like that book.
The Advantage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Your favorite sports team?
The Miami Dolphins.
Your favorite Vegas sport team?
The Raiders, the Golden Knights, and the Aces.
Oh, all of them. Yeah, I like it. Now, good job on the first section. The second one is called tough choices. Are you ready?
Yes.
Would you rather vacation or staycation?
Staycation.
And if you do your staycation, would it be at home or at another place?
Another place.
Another place. And when you travel, do you like to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb?
Hotel.
Would you rather spend the day by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
Ocean.
Would you rather retire on a ranch or in the city?
In the city.
Actions or words?
Action.
Justice or grace?
In the middle.
Very good. Yes. So you finished tough choices. The last segment is called finish the sentence. I'll give you about 90% of the sentence. You're going to finish it for me. You ready?
Yes.
If Bryant could visit any place in the world, it would be?
It would be Europe.
The best part of living in Southern Nevada is?
Oh, we have great communities, great pools, great venues, great entertainment.
I agree. Bryant's favorite thing about his job at Republic Services is?
Our people.
If Bryant could travel back in time to another period, he would travel to?
Aruba.
All right. 3 words that describe Bryant are?
Faith, integrity, and respect.
Oh, very good. And doing the WC podcast here today with us was?
Outstanding.
All right.